Pretty boy Floyd, Money Mayweather, returning to action against the YouTube sensation, the social media influencer, the guy who walked out with a Pokemon card around his neck. I mean, just the wackiest of the wacky. Only in America do you get a situation like this. A guy with one fight under his belt against the 50-0 Floyd Mayweather, who has dabbled in exhibition fights. Of course, we remember in Japan a couple years ago. And in the end, of course, there was no winner because it was an exhibition fight. And in the end, everyone was talking about it on Sunday. Maybe they're onto something here with this Sunday night thing for boxing matches. I know you watched it. Everyone was watching it. It was a crazy thing. Everyone said they weren't going to watch it, but in the end, my Twitter timeline was all about it. SportsCenter IG, ESPN IG, all about it. I'm just going to throw out like a simple question right off the top. What did you make of what happened Sunday night in Miami between Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul?
You know, Jake Paul had that Pokemon card, and the kids loved it. Little Daniel was like, dude has a iced out Pokemon card. Like, the Paul brothers are cool to these children nowadays.
Wait a second. Time out. You just called him Jake Paul. It's Logan Paul. You don't know the difference? They're two separate people.
Sorry.
There's an older brother and a younger brother. I mean, for God's sakes.
I'm sorry. I don't really know. I don't really know the difference between them all that much. But Logan Paul is, hey, kid's an athlete too, right? The kid wrestled. He was a stud. And you could tell that he took this thing serious because he tried. Way bigger than Floyd. But hats off to him. Floyd's a genius, though, right? Floyd is a guy that is 44 years old. He's 50-0. When he decides to make a boatload of money, he goes and fights someone that has no chance of beating him, no chance of hurting him, and he gets a ton of people in Hard Rock Stadium and makes $100 million. Like, who can do that? But the reality is this. Floyd Mayweather, as the fight went on, it looked like he actually tried to get the kid out of there, and he couldn't really do it because Paul kept grabbing him, Paul kept holding, and Paul was able to land 8 rounds. That's crazy. So the winner of the night, if I'm being completely honest, has to be Logan Paul because you went 8 rounds with who I believe, Daniel Cormier's opinion, is the greatest boxer of all time. And Floyd beat him up. Floyd cruised, but Floyd never hurt the kid. He should have at least knocked him down once, twice to show the level of dominance that you expect from a Floyd Money Mayweather.
I have so many thoughts here, and I'm looking at some of these tweets. The first thing I would say to all these people and to anyone else who was complaining after the fact, like, what did you expect? Really, what did you expect? This was exactly what we thought it was going to be, and then some. And so if you were disappointed afterwards, that's on you, shame on you, because I think we all kind of thought that this would end in a decision, especially once they announced the rules. Obviously, there are weight classes for a reason, right? I mean, there's a 30-pound weight difference between the two of them. They're wearing 12-ounce gloves. It's very hard, no matter how good you are, to knock out a guy who is that much bigger than you. That being said, I do think in an unofficial capacity. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
No, to the body area. Before you get too far.
But that's what I was just going to say.
Before you get too far, to the body.
Okay. No, listen, this is what I'm trying to say. In an unofficial capacity, Floyd lost that fight because I believe Floyd Money Mayweather could beat that man and any other guy with a 1-0 record, any other amateur, as easily as he wants, as quickly as he wants. Floyd could have put this thing into another gear and knocked this man out with a kidney shot in a minute, in 2 minutes. He let him hang around. He carried Logan Paul. And as a result, now we're going to have to listen to Logan Paul and his brother Jake parade around town from now until the end of time, and they've already started it, saying they beat Floyd Mayweather, 50-1 for Floyd. So Floyd is laughing to the bank. He doesn't care what I think, what you think, what anyone's think. He just wants to go to the bank and cash that money, and by the way, more power to him. Only in America, he's making hundreds of millions of dollars to do that, to play fantasy camp. DC, that was Home Alone 3. That was the Home Alone 3 version of Mayweather-McGregor. What I mean by that is, we saw the first 2 movies. They were great. No one watched Home Alone 3. It was a blockbuster straight to VHS. Shout out to VHS once again. Bargain, discount, bin movie that no one wanted to watch. This was the Home Alone 3 version of Mayweather-McGregor. Mayweather-McGregor, we suspended disbelief. We thought for a second that Conor could knock knock him out? Of course, we found out he couldn't. And now they tried to get us again, and they got us again. And guess what? It's not a loss for boxing. Everyone was talking about boxing. Stop trying to say that boxing is dead. Stop trying to say that Mayweather's legacy is ruined. No, at the end of the day, they all made money, and this will continue to happen. By the way, do you see, this isn't a bubble. This isn't a thing that is new. This isn't something that these Paul brothers started. This dates back hundreds of years. We could go back to Ali and Inoki. We could go back even before that. These fights will continue until the end of time, and we will all continue to watch, and they will all make money off of all of us. I say sit back, relax, enjoy the show. But if you want to say who won and who lost, if you want to raise someone's hand, I think Floyd lost that fight because he let that guy hang around with him, and in reality, he should have had more respect for himself, and he should have finished him earlier in the fight.
What I was saying to you was that you're right, Ariel. Weight classes matter, but you could see when Floyd would kind of get close and he would dig body shots on Paul, you could see how much they affected him. He threw one real good left body shot, and you saw Logan Paul grimace and try to grab Floyd. So I feel like Floyd maybe couldn't have knocked him out to the head, but I feel like if he would have made a bigger investment into the body, he would have got that kid out of here a long time ago. I thought after the 5th round, Logan Paul, he wanted to quit, but it was on Floyd to go out there and just give him a little bit more in order to show him the door, and Floyd never did that. I wholeheartedly agree with you that if there is a winner and a loser in this, it was Floyd Mayweather, because you don't have a guy stand and go 8 rounds with you when you are who you are. Even at 44, it does not happen. Now, let me say this. This, to me, is no good, and it's no good for more reasons than one. I truly believe that when you watch that, right, and you watch Floyd go 8 rounds with this kid, and this kid didn't fatigue as much as Floyd maybe anticipated, he couldn't get him out of there. When we sent our guy over there to fight in the boxing match against Floyd, our guy fatigued, and that's where he got finished. But it's almost like you watch, and times you see Floyd fighting him in the way that he fought against Conor. So it does not bode well for Floyd, but it also makes mixed martial arts look a little bit worse, because do you have to question whether or not Floyd was carrying McGregor into the later rounds, and Conor fatigued, and this Paul kid didn't.
Yeah, there are some who believe that. I will just add that, look, Floyd, his nickname is Money Mayweather, so most importantly, he's very proud of the fact that in his mid-40s now, he's able to make this kind of money, and he's still able to capture our attention the way he does, so more power to him there. But I wish he had a little more self-respect, and what I mean by that is this. Michael Jordan, you see these clips of him at fantasy camps. He's playing against 12-year-old kids, and he's blocking them and dunking on them. Like, this man won't allow himself to be viewed as an equal to lesser athletes, right? For some reason, Floyd thinks it's okay to do that. And to me, like, the supposed greatest of all time should be above that sort of thing. There are other ways in which you can make money, and doing this with someone, and it has nothing to do with YouTube. Like, I got respect. Like, the Paul brothers, like, hey, man, you're doing your thing. I'm not one of these guys who is hating on them, who thinks they're bad for combat sports or anything like that. In fact, I think that they're a rising tide that's lifting all the boats here. And also, you know, for those that don't know, like, going 8 rounds against anyone, 3-minute rounds, like, that's tough. Like, to have the cardio to do that, to have the ability to keep your hands up the way in which he did for, 24 minutes and all that, like, that takes skill. You need to be an athlete to do that. So I'm not trying to disparage them at all, but clearly, Logan has no business going 8 full rounds with Floyd Mayweather, for God's sakes, and that's why I feel like the L is on him. I'll also just add, Jake Paul's a better boxer than Logan Paul. Like, who we agree on that? Like, Jake Paul and the path that he is going with his career and the decisions he's making, like the Tyron Woodley fight, which we'll talk about later, is an appropriate step up for a guy who's 3-0. This is all just like freak show, fun stuff, whatever that Logan is doing.
But if you just Logan Paul lost to another YouTube guy. He got beat by another YouTube guy, but then
Jake's
he went
better,
8
though,
rounds
right?
with Floyd Mayweather. Like, that's bad for Logan Paul to have lost to a YouTube kid, and then to be able to stand 8 rounds with Floyd Mayweather. That's why I said hats off to Logan Paul. Here's another thing about these Paul kids, right? They're training Ariel. They're kids with money. They're at the beginning of their careers in boxing, but they're not getting trained by the local guy in their hometown. They're getting trained by high-level boxing coaches because they can pay them. They don't have jobs, so their full-time job is to train boxing. They can do all these things because of the money they've made with YouTube and everything they've done. So there is no knock on these kids. These kids are doing the right things to prepare themselves. It's on the actual fighters to go out there and remind them that they don't belong. Because for as long as, if you're Logan Paul and you just went with Floyd Mayweather, who in the world are you not afraid to fight now? Like, who are you not willing to go in there with if they're smaller than you? Because if you get the right size guy, you know that they can't hit hard enough to hurt you. Who are you not afraid to go in there with as Logan Paul? It generates money.
Well,
so any smaller guy is willing to take the fight. Now, he won't go in there with a Canelo because Canelo's going to take his head off. Canelo's the type of guy that's not going to play with you. Canelo's trying to ruin you. So he'll pick his battles. But you go 8 rounds with one of the greatest fighters of all time, man, that's to be commended. But these kids are training, Ariel. These kids have high-level trainers that are preparing them for actual fights. So if you go in there with those Paul kids, you better be ready to fight, or you're going to get yourself embarrassed. But Floyd missed the show, Helwani. Floyd missed the show. Floyd missed the show. He came out with the Migos. He had his crocodile jacket on. He missed the show.